this is the week 2 of the CVA parent Google training. This is an iPad session. We didn't have anybody join us, so we're going to record the session so that people will be able to see it at their leisure. So this session will be a little bit shorter because we are just falling back and punting at this point. But we're hoping that you've got something useful that you'll be able to use. So the focus today is on getting comfortable with your device. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my screen share to my iPad. Here we go. All right. So one of the pain points with iPads in classrooms is knowing where to find everything. So what we're going to be covering today are things like, where did my files go? What are some keyboard shortcuts for saving time? Taking screenshots and then finding them, locating different apps. And then we're going to be looking at some items that are specific to iPads. We also did a Chromebook session, and a lot of this applies more to Chromebooks because the desktop version of Chrome is a lot more powerful than the app version of Chrome. But still, I want to show you how you can bookmark on an iPad, because that is time-saving, and a lot of times you'll find something that you want that is valuable to you, but you might not necessarily have time to look at it right then. All right. So first, I want to go into settings. So I'm going to find this gear icon. And you can see now, right now, since I held my finger on that app, all the apps are dancing right now, which means that they're in a mode where you can move them around. So if I tap on this icon, I can move it. I can also put it over a second icon to create a folder. And then I can name the folder whatever I want. And I can also drag apps out of folders by tapping on them and waiting until they start dancing, and then you can edit your screen. Okay, so for right now, I'm going to hit the home button to make them stop dancing, and I'm going to go into settings, and this is where all the power is. Okay, so we are on the left. First, I want to go over Wi-Fi. If you're trying to connect to a Wi-Fi, you need to go here to the Wi-Fi button, which is just inside settings, and it's the second one down. Now, you might notice airplane mode there. So, of course, airplane mode you would hit if you were on an airplane, right? But if your iPad is almost dead for battery power, it will charge faster if you turn airplane mode on. So that's just a little tip to help you out. But some people are having trouble connecting to Wi-Fi. So if you click on the Wi-Fi button, up here on the top, you can see that there's an on-off button for your Wi-Fi. And sometimes you just need to turn it off and then turn it back on again to get it to work. Right now, I'm attached to the EFP Tech Wi-Fi in my home. But if I wanted to disconnect to it, because sometimes you automatically connect to Wi-Fi's that you've already been connected to, and maybe it's not the right one, you would use this first feature that says forget this network. Now, I don't want to hit that now because then I'll disconnect altogether, but you can hit forget this network so that it stops auto joining. But notice the second one underneath it is where it says auto join. So you would turn that off for Wi-Fi's that you do not want it to auto join to. Okay. There is a low data mode here. So if you are low on data, like if you are, this applies more to your phone and data that you have. And it looks exactly the same on your phone if you have an iPhone. But you can turn on the low data mode, and then it will let you know when you're almost out of data. Okay, so that's just a quick tip about connecting to Wi-Fi's. So just on the left over here, below Wi-Fi, it says Bluetooth. Now, if you have, you can see here that I have a Zag Keys Folio. That is my Bluetooth keyboard that I have attached to my iPad so that I can type more easily. And it's a part of my case. So if your student would do well with a keyboard instead of finger tapping on the electronic keyboard that pops up on your iPad, you can come in here to Bluetooth if you have your own Bluetooth keyboard, and you can connect it there for your student. All right. Now, just as another tip, the best places that I have found to purchase Bluetooth, anything Bluetooth, is Big Lots and also Tuesday Morning. Both of those have a really good, inexpensive technology section. So definitely check there. All right. Now, I'm going to scroll down, and I want you to see this screen time, because this is important for parents to be able to see what their child is doing, because it is very easy for kids to kind of wander into places where you would not normally let them. So because your device is a CCSD device, this might be deactivated, but definitely check and see, because what you can do here is you can create a downtime which says your iPad is pretty much disabled between, bedtime and wake up time. So I set mine for 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. You can also set app limits. So if you want to let your child be on certain apps, you can put a passcode on so that it's the parent that controls that and the student can't necessarily get into it. All right. So you can play around there. And then the rest of these are things that as parents, you want to tap on and see how they're going to work for you. Now, my advice to you from experience is don't set more than one at a time, because if it doesn't work, you're not sure if they're conflicting with one another. So just try one at a time and see if it works, and then layer on. Okay. Now, right here, this change screen time passcode, you want to set that as a parent so that your child can't get in and just change it. Okay. Share across devices is if you've got other Apple devices. Probably the Charleston County one will not talk to your other devices, but of course you could try it. And then you can turn off screen time down here, which means that it's removing the limits. Okay, so definitely go in over here on the left under screen time and then play around in there. And just from experience, I have 4 children. This is something that is super powerful to help you be a good parent, because normally if they're with you, you know where they're going, right? Physically, but online, you don't know where they're going. Okay. All right. Now, moving right along, I'm going to go into the general section. And here in the about, this is where you can see what's going on as far as what generation iPad you have. So I have an iPad 6th generation. I can see my software version. I can see my serial number, but I can also see here how much how much storage is being used up with different items that are saved to my iPad. So my capacity is 128 gigabytes, and I'll just scroll. I can't scroll up anymore. So the capacity here says 128 gigabytes, and I have 105 gigabytes available. So I have plenty of storage on my iPad. Now, if your student or child, or you, if you are the student, are having trouble saving things, you might want to come in here to general and check to see if you're maxed out. because you might need to delete some of your photos and videos because they do take up a lot of space. Now, as far as applications are concerned, if you have an iPhone or if you have your own iPad, you might be downloading too many applications and you might need to delete some. But on a CCSD device, I believe that's locked down, and the district controls which applications go onto that iPad. So you would really only have control over videos and photos. All right. Okay, so I'm going to click back on General because remember, I was just in the About section, whoops, right here. So what I'm going to click on Software Update. Now, because your device is controlled by CCSD, they might be completely in control of all updates. But this is where you could check to see if there are some things that need to be updated. And let's see what else here. So other things that you might need to look at, right here under Keyboard, when I click on that, I've got two keyboards there. I have the English normal keyboard, and then I also have an emoji keyboard that I installed. Now, that might be locked down, but it might not be. And emojis are kind of fun, and I think we should have fun in education. So that might be an option. This text replacement is where you can set shortcuts for things that you have to type in a lot. So for your child, having to type in Charleston County Schools, if they have to do that, or ccsdschools.com might, if you have, a kindergartner or first, second grader, that might be a lot for them. So you could come in here and teach them, and definitely teach them how to do it, because knowledge is power. So what you do is, over here on the right-hand side, I'm going to hit the plus button. And when I hit that, I'm going to type the phrase that I don't want to have to type anymore. So this would be ccsdschools.com, schools with an S.com. And then I'm going to click where it says shortcut, and I'm just going to type CCSDS. The reason I'm going to do that is because I might need to type CCSD by itself. And if I make CCSD the shortcut, then every time I type CCSD, the iPad is automatically going to replace it with ccsdschools.com, and then I have to erase everything. So I want to go one letter further to CCSDS, and then I'm going to hit the Save button. And now you can see here underneath my C's that CCSDS is the shortcut, and it's going to type out ccsdschools.com for me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to show you what that would look like. I'm going to go into my Notes feature app, and I have this new note. And when I tap and I type in CCSDS, notice down here at the bottom, it's offering me ccsdschools.com, and all I have to do is tap on it. Okay? So that's just a time saver, right? So I'm going to double click on my home button, and I'm going to close. I'm going to swipe to get rid of that. And I'm going to go back into my settings where I was. So also underneath General, you can play around with fonts and dictionary, and the rest of this probably wouldn't apply anymore. Okay, now underneath General on the left is Control Center. Now, the Control Center is now, it used to be in the swipe up position from the bottom of your screen, but now it's you swipe down from the top right-hand corner. And this right here is My Control Center. So you might have control over what to put here. It might be locked down for CCSD. But if you can access it, these are all the shortcuts for the different things that you might need to do often. Okay, so what I've got here is this. I have an alarm. I've got here a timer, and I'm going to back out. Let me get back into it. Come on. Here we go. This is a shortcut to take a note. My camera is here. Okay. And when I tap on that, I can set it. It gives me these quickies for take a selfie, record a video, take a photo, and then do slow-mo. Okay. These are all things that your child will need to know because education is moving toward the students creating stuff instead of just consuming. So it's important for your child to know how to record a video, right? Or take a selfie of himself holding up his work so the teacher can see that it's him and it's his work, right? Or take a photo of a 3D model that he or she created. So that's just one more shortcut that you can put in there. For the iPad kids, the being able to scan a QR code is also super important. Let me close that back out. And I'm just going to drag down. So the kids can scan a QR code quickly by using that. There is a stopwatch timer. Now this button right here in between where I have the AA and the stopwatch, this is for you to be able to record what is on your screen. Now it does not record your voice. So when you click on that, it's going to say, oh, it's not available when I'm screen mirroring, which is how I'm doing this. But what you would be able to do is you would tap on that. And then if your child is trying to show how to do a math problem, he or she would be able to be in an app that allows them to draw. And then they would be able to draw it. And then they record it, turn it on, show what they know, turn it off, and then be able to turn that in. Now, again, there's no audio. Okay, so they wouldn't be able to talk their way through it, but the teacher would be able to see their work. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to show you how you can program your own control panel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my home button to get out of that. And I'm in the control center on the left. So you have to tap over here on control center. If I want them to be able to swipe down while they're inside an app, I need to turn this on and off. Okay, so it's on. So now I'll be able to, while I'm inside an app, be able to swipe down and be able to jump right back in. Okay, so the things that are included in the control. So the bell that I tapped on, that's silent mode, right? So sometimes you just need to silence your iPad, and instead of having to find the button on the left-hand side, sometimes it's just easier to be able to tap. So you can put that in there. I've got the timer turned on. I have notes turned on, the camera, text size, screen recording. I've got my stopwatch. I have the QR code scanner. I have an alarm. Now, teaching your child, or if you are the child, learning how to set alarms to remind you to do things is a skill. And it's a 21st century skill because we have more going on now, certainly than we had when I was a child back in the 80s. And we used to write everything down because we didn't have electronics to help us. But now learning how to use an alarm is going to be super important. So teach your child how to set the alarms on here. And then if you want it to be in the control center so they can get to it quickly, you can add it here. Okay. There's a magnifier if anybody in the family has visual issues. And this accessibility shortcuts is super cool. So I'm going to be talking about that in a little bit. And then dark mode switches everything so that the contrast is reversed. Instead of having a white background with dark text, it has a dark background with white text. This is super important for when your student is after dinner working on the iPad, because the blue light coming from the device actually disrupts your sleep patterns. So it's important for you to, if you are the student, to use dark mode after dinner. And if it's the adult, teaching your child or checking in on them and making sure that that's turned on. Okay. Now, guided access is super powerful because guided access locks the student into a specific app. So if they're supposed to be doing one thing and you're kind of wondering if they really are, you can click the guided access and they won't be able to go anywhere but in that one app. All right. There are more controls here. So if you have Apple TV at home, you would be able to link to it there. There are some hearing accessibility controls that you can add there. If you have Apple Home, you could connect it, and then there is music recognition, sound recognition, and voice memos. Now, voice memos are fun because if your student is a music student, then he or she could use voice memos to record themselves playing an instrument or singing. You can also, I have the best voice memos of my own children, just asking them questions when they were little, and now I have their little voices answering me. So the voice memos are super easy to use. So you might also want to keep that in your control center. So if you want to add it to the control center, I'm going to add voice memos. You just have to hit that blue plus sign. And now you can see that voice memos is in the top portion. So here's my voice. Here are my voice memos. And if I want to move it within my my control center, over here on the right where they've got the hamburger, we call it, or sometimes it's just 3 lines, you can just click on that and drag it into whatever order you want it. So now if I drag down from the top right-hand corner, now you can see that I've got voice memos right here, and it's where I want it to be. Okay? So if I wanted it to be up top, it goes left to right. So if I want voice memos to be first, that's not what I wanted. Let me jump back in here. If I want voice memos to be first, I'm going to click on the lines and I'm going to drag all the way up to the top. And I definitely want my camera to be up top too. And QR code is definitely something I would use a lot. And I'm going to drag up dark mode just for fun. Now when I drag down, you can see I have voice memos, camera, QR code, and then my silencer. Okay? So that's how you can use the control center. Okay? Now, what I want to show you is I'm going to actually go into the guided access. Oh, it's locked out right now. Oh, because I'm not in an app. So I have to be in an app for guided access to work. So let me open up. These are my Google apps. So this one. Let's say I'm in Google Docs, and I want my child to be locked into it. I'm going to open Google Docs first. Then when wait, let me back out of here. I accidentally hit it. So I'm in Google Docs first. Then when I drag down, I'm going to hit the lock for guided access. I think, let me see. It should. Maybe because I canceled it, I messed it up. Let me close this out and try again. I'm going to close these other apps. I'm going to open Google Docs again. I'm going to swipe down. I'm going to click on the guided access. And you can see how it shrank my window. And now in the top right-hand corner, I can hit start. And now I have to type in my passcode. Now notice it says verify your new passcode. Nothing was set there. So because it's a new passcode, it just saved it. Okay. So you want to make sure you do that out of the sight of vision of your child, because otherwise they'll be able to type it in. You also have to be careful that your fingerprints don't show on the iPad, because we learned the hard way that students are very, very observant when they want to be, and they'll be able to figure out your passcode. Okay. So now I would be locked into only being able to use Google Docs. And when I hit the home button, it says guided access is enabled. And so it's telling me I won't be able to get out. Now, it does say triple click the home button to exit. So when I do that, it asks for the passcode. So as a parent, I can turn it off, but the student wouldn't be able to because he or she is not going to know the passcode. All right. So I logged myself out because I need to get out of it. But it's a really, really nice feature. Okay. So that's guided access. All right. So I'm going to double click on the home button to get back into my settings. Okay. Let's see what else I wanted to show you. Okay. I want to go into accessibility over here on the left, because if you've got non-readers at home or beginning readers at home, this is where you're going to be able to help them out. Okay. So notice inside accessibility, this is where guided access is down here at the bottom. And you might have to turn that on or off as needed, right? Okay, so we've got physical and motor, and we've got spoken content. So I'm going to go into spoken content. And here is where if you have a student who is a non-reader or a beginning reader or a struggling reader, you can use the speak selection. And when you use that, it says a speak button will appear when you select text. And then speak screen will read everything on the screen. I don't recommend speak screen because it literally reads everything on the screen. Like every single menu title on the screen, it reads everything. So a speak screen is more for somebody who might have visual issues and they need to know everything that's on the screen. So speak selection is what I recommend. So if a student needs to read a book or a short story, they would be able to select the text and then have it spoken to them. So the computer will read it to them. Okay. Now, if you do have a beginning or a struggling reader, I recommend that you turn on the highlight content, because not only will it read to them, but the student will see the words while it's being read. And that is very helpful when somebody is learning to read. So if your student is an English language learner where they already know Spanish or another language and they're trying to learn English, this is something that could be very powerful in helping them to learn the new language. Okay. Over here, they can choose the voices that they like. So you would choose English, and then they could choose whether it's a male or a female. If you scroll down, you can choose Australian, which we all think is hilarious. You can also choose Ireland, right? So they have all these different accents. So that might be something fun to play around with. But normally, you've got your basic US English to choose from here, and you would just install it and select it. Okay. So I'm going to back out of that by clicking the top left hand, and I'm still in accessibility. And right now I'm in, and down here you can change the speaking rate. And then they also have pronunciations to choose, Australian, etc. Okay. So moving back down, that was our spoken content. For physical and motor, if you have a student who does have some physical or motor issues, if they don't have strong dexterity, you might be able to play here, go into touch, and assistive touch can be turned on or off, and they've got different touch accommodations. Okay, so this is something that you might find helpful. So definitely explore those. Those different features. The home button here, some people have trouble with. So you can leave it on the default click speed, or you can make it slower. So if your child, and this applies also to if you have your own iPad and it might be an elderly parent that's using it. I know that my 80-year-old mom, she couldn't click fast enough. So I could change the click speed to work better for her so that it would register that she was hitting it twice in a row. So you can set it to slow or slowest. So just try them out. I'm going to leave it on default for myself. You can also set your press and hold for Siri to come on or off. And I don't use Siri, and it kind of makes me crazy when she starts talking to me and I don't want her to. So I'm going to turn that off. You can also use a rest finger to open, which means if you just put your thumb on or any finger on the home button, that's going to be enough to register that you want to. Oh, I'm sorry. This is just for Touch ID. So if you want it to have fingerprint recognition, you would use the rest finger to open. I'm going to turn that off for now. Okay, so these are just a few accessibility features that are really nice inside an iPad. Now I want to jump down to the Touchpad ID and Passcode. If when your child goes back to school, right now CVA is all virtual, but if your child is going back to school, or if you have two children and they have to use the same iPad, you can give each person his or her own passcode so that their stuff is protected. So you could play around in here with your passcode. Under privacy, you don't want your apps to track you, but some of them are going to anyway. So you might want them to allow to request to app and then train your child to say, no, don't track me. Okay, so those are some things that are important. And then there are privacy options within all of these different apps. So you could tap and go into each one so that you know that your child is protected. And then each of these apps down the left-hand side, each one has its own settings. So you can definitely go in and make sure that your child is protected and that things are kosher and that everything that your child needs is turned on or turned off. All right. So that's it for settings. And we're going to come back out. And I'm looking at our agenda. Splitting your screen is super important. So there's a new feature on the iPad that allows you to split your screen. And I haven't mastered it yet, but I'm going to show you how to open them side by side. It's the closing them that I find the most difficult. So let's just say that your child is getting directions from Google Classroom and needs to do something in Google Slides. So what we need to do is we need to open up. I'm going to open up Google Classroom, which is this icon, okay? So I'm going to open that up. And then I'm going to hit my home button, and I'm going to open up Slides. Now, right now, and I just want to open up a new slide. Okay, so now I can only see one or the other. If I double click, it shows me all of my apps and I can get back into Classroom. But if I want them both to be side by side, what I have to do is, while they both need to be open, and then I'm going to swipe up from the bottom so that I can see all of my open apps. And then I'm going to drag the one that I also need open, which is Slides. So I'm going to tap on it and I'm going to drag it up. And notice now it will float over top of my Classroom. So I can use it that way, or I can swipe it over so that it touches the side of my screen. And once it does that, I can let go, and now I can actually see them side by side. So I can be working inside this app And then I can also be doing whatever I need to do over here on this app. Okay? Now, here's where it gets dicey. For me, it's really hard for me to close this. So the bar at the top middle is where I can click and drag. So I have to first bring it into the floating mode, and then you're supposed to be able to just drag it off to the side, but you can see that I must be doing something wrong. So let me just drag. And what happens is if I double click and I swipe it off, and then I open one of them again, there you go. Maybe that's all I need to do is swipe them both off and then open them up individually. So that worked. All right. So once again, how do I get that split screen? I have to have both apps open. Then I swipe up from the bottom. Then I drag it onto the other app, and I have to touch the side of my screen so that they both go side by side. And then to close them, I double click and I just swipe up, and then I can open each one at a time. So I have full screen. Okay. So at this point, would be where you would be practicing all of this, and you would be asking questions. I'm trying to see what else I can share with you at the last minute. So we did shortcuts. All right, when you take a screenshot, and to take a screenshot, let's just say that you are on let's say you're on the internet and you want to get a screenshot. I used to ask my seniors if they found any of our vocabulary words in real life to take a screenshot of it, turn it in, and they would get an extra credit point because they were using what we had learned in school. So they would have to take a screenshot of it. So, or a picture if they were out, and it was a store poster or something. So to take a screenshot, you have to hold down the power button and the home button. And when I do that, you can see that it takes a screenshot and it puts it down in the bottom corner. And when I click on it, I can use the arrow in the top right-hand button to send it to an app. So if my teacher wants me to email it, I can hit the Gmail button, okay? But as I scroll over, I can also add it to my drive, which then would give the student a link to share it with a teacher through. Or I'm looking for Google Classroom, and Google Classroom is in my list. So if I click on Google Classroom, I could turn it in this way just by taking the screenshot, hitting the share button, and then finding Google Classroom. And then once we find Google Classroom, we would have to locate the exact activity where the teacher wants it attached. And we'll be covering that next week. So I'm not going to go into Google Classroom right now. But I'm in this window right now. And down here in the bottom left, you can see my pen. So I can edit this if I wanted. So if the teacher wanted me to mark something on there, I can choose a pen, I can choose a highlighter, and then I could highlight this way, and it's going to save to my picture. So when I hit done in the top left-hand corner, it asks me, where do I want to save it? Into my photos or into my files, or do I want to delete it? So I'm just going to hit save to photos. And now, when I go into my photos, down here in the bottom right, you're going to see that's the picture that I just saved. Okay. All right. And I want to show you, the last thing I want to show you is locating the different apps. I'm just going to share with you the look on my iPad. So down here, you can see I've got 2, 4, 6, 8 different pages of apps, and it's just too much, right? Looking for things. So the fastest way to find an app is to put your finger in between two apps and swipe down, and you get the search bar. So if I wanted to find, let's see, I wanted my Twitter, it's going to automatically pop open for me. But notice it also searches the internet. So I can do an internet search right from my iPad desktop. Okay, so here we are, and it brings me straight to that app. And to close out your apps, you have to double click on your home button, and then you're going to swipe up. My screen is a little bit frozen right now, but you're going to swipe up, and that's how you can close your apps. So let's see. Looks like my screen's completely frozen now. So that's probably a good place for us to stop. So again, when you swipe down, you have to be in between. Oh, actually, when I do it on apps, it's working too. So they've fixed that. They've gotten even better. So you're just going to swipe down from the middle of your screen, not the top of your screen. If you swipe down from the top of your screen, you're going to actually close your, it's the equivalent to hitting the home button, okay, or locking your screen. All right, I'm going to, let me stop presenting, and let's see if, okay, here we go. So this has been the week 2 training for CVA parents for iPads, and we're going to post this on the website so that if you miss the training, you'll be able to jump back in. But remember, when you show up live to the trainings, you get a raffle submission towards the drawing for the iPad or the Chromebook. And also, we would like your feedback. So if you do end up watching this video, if you wouldn't mind filling out the survey to let us know whether it was beneficial or not. And I'm just going to share the website with you right now. Let me switch my view. Oh, here we are. Okay, let me share my screen so I can show you where it is. Okay. Okay, so we've got, Natalia, are you able to see the website? Is it showing? Okay.
I can see it.
It's, there we go. Okay, good. So for week 2, the website address is sites.google.com/view/CVA-training/week-2. So I know that was a lot, and this link has been shared out by Ms. Rivers, so you should have it in an email as well. If you click on the download a copy of the agenda, you'll be able to get links to the survey. And also, if you're planning on coming in the future, this register here is just for this week. So you would have to click on week 3 up here. Next week, we're going to be doing Google Classroom and organizing your Google Drive. You can download a copy of the agenda here, and then please register just so that we know that you're coming. And the links to the, when you register, you'll automatically get a copy of the links emailed to you of the specific session that you are registering for. But also, you can always come back here and click on the link for the respective date and time. Okay, if you do not have your own free Google account, there's a video here explaining to you how you can do that so that you can be logged in under your own account. If not, you can log in under your child's account, and that's fine. All right, so that's it for this week, and hopefully we will see you next week.